Hello and welcome to Global Sanctuary for Elephants podcast, Global Rumblings. Global Sanctuary for Elephants, or GSE for short, is a non-profit organization with a mission to create vast safe spaces for captive elephants where they are able to heal physically and emotionally, often from very traumatic pasts. I'm your host, Nadia Mari, and I'll be taking you to the lush jungle of the Mato Grosso region in central Brazil, home of GSE's initial project, Elephant Sanctuary Brazil. Currently home to 5 female Asian elephants, lovingly referred to as the girls. Hello everyone, welcome back and thank you for tuning in this week for a new episode of Global Rumblings. I'll be talking to Kat and Scott about Pupy, the female African elephant at the Buenos Aires eco-parque in Argentina, and why Scott actually returned to the sanctuary recently without Pupy. So let's head over to Brazil to say hi to Kat and Scott. Hello, you two.
Hey, Nadia, how are you doing?
Hi, Nadia.
Kat's laughing already.
No, it's just a lead-in. It's like, why you returned without our failure?
Yeah, that's a little how it feels. So
I know that's how you hear it. So.
Yep, so we're right in the topic, huh? Very exciting times. I mean, your supporters are all on the edge of their seats, you know, bought the popcorn, getting ready, waiting, but Pupy is not quite ready. She doesn't want, or she's not comfortable with the back gate of her transport crate being closed, so you can't load her up. You've decided to return home because you have other things, of course, to do. You've got a sanctuary to run. So maybe let's dive just straight in and you tell us about your first week or about the week in Argentina with your veterinarian, Dr. Trish.
Well, let's talk with Pupy's awesome. She's amazing, and she has beautiful eyes, and she, more than anybody I have ever seen, wants to look directly in your eyes.
Any elephant.
Any elephant, yeah. I've seen, we have elephants that want to look at you, but she wants to, like, make direct eye contact. Yeah, she's really... it's fun being around an African elephant again. It's been a long time. Very different behavior, very different processing speeds, you know, and reaction speeds. And, you know, but bottom line is she's not comfortable with the door closing. Loves the crate, thinks the crate's awesome. She's in it all the time, but just wasn't comfortable with the door closing. And we could go round and round about all the reasons why and what to do next, but we don't really know all of the scenario. Of course, the bigger picture, as you guys all know, is Kuky passed away about 4 months ago. Some people see Pupy as having more independence and more strength and a stronger will than she used to have. I kind of got the impression early on that it was more defensive, more self-protective behavior, which is putting on a little bit more of a front. And that may be part of the insecurity with being closed in because no one else is there to protect her, which she had for so many years. You know, we really don't know. So bottom line is, not bottom line, but one of the elements with her is the way they were training her was not ideal. They were having her come into the crate and having her do behaviors. And then they would slowly have people walk towards the back and try to desensitize closing the gate. But they kept the desensitization really, really, really sterile and really... Minimal. I mean, you know, it's like as people were moving towards the back of the crate, it's like centimeter by centimeter and it stopped. And if Pupy did anything to the negative, they would just stop the session.
Oh, I see.
Instead of saying, hey, let her check it out. Let her get frustrated. Let her vent. Let her say, whoa, what are you doing there? So after a few days, because they didn't want to make any changes because they're so afraid of change. And I think that holds most elephant programs back.
I think that holds most humans back.
Fear of what might go wrong.
Sure.
Instead of taking a chance on what could be. And knowing that you can always stop. Try it. If it doesn't work, you're not going to break your spirit. You're just saying, you know, I crossed your comfort line. Okay, I'll step back. And that's, and again, as a way of building trust and communication and trust through communication. Let her know what her limit is. Okay, that's your limit. I hear that. I'll take a breath, analyze, process. Now that you've had time to analyze, is that still your threshold or can we try again? But they didn't give a chance for that communication to happen. But that is really, 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 really common. with captive elephants.
They didn't want to do anything wrong.
Sure. And they're used to also, and we see this in different facilities, at least here in South America, is that anywhere that has Africans and Asians, they think all elephants are supposed to behave like Asians, who are much more grounded and they're much more passive. And then the African elephants all get labeled as aggressive or having behavioral issues. And it's nothing more than them being African elephants. I mean, talked about it many, many times. They're very different. And one of the differences with, an African and an Asian elephant, if you get an aggressive response, if you get the kind of lashing out that Africans can do just on a whim, from an Asian elephant, it's very different because you're going to have to have pushed harder with most of them. They are going to internalize it more. A lot of them are going to hold on to it. It is a bigger deal. And with African elephants, it's that they don't even really process much. They just respond, but it goes away as quickly as it happens most of the time. So it's like, oh my God, what did you do? And then 3 seconds later, it's, hey, how's it going? So there is this vast difference that is not always acknowledged. So this fear of pushing her too far, is very different than what they had to deal with Mara, although those two teams weren't actually even the same team.
There's very few people there now that were there with Mara. There are a few of them, but very, very few. So they never really had that opportunity to try to desensitize that way, and they were too protective and too cautious. Instead of just making noise, it doesn't mean you go in and slam the crate right away, but you start walking around. So we actually opened up the side windows as one of the first things. We opened up the side windows. We introduced chains and straps, but that was to try to pull the door because she was so insecure about people going to the back. Because they hadn't desensitized that well, that she was so watchful of that movement that you couldn't even get to the back door to try to be able to push it. So we introduced chains and straps, knowing that we were probably going to have to pull the door closed from the front. And just to try to desensitize her to a chain and a strap. Not that you're putting it on her leg, not that you're tying her down. And the first time we did that, and there's a big fat chain. I grabbed the biggest chain we had, and those are emergency chains. If something goes wrong on the trip, made a whole lot of noise. And from the front, after a couple of times, from the front, almost bowling with the chain, so it goes back behind her along her side, all the way to the back of the crate, and she just, okay, no big deal. Picked it up, put it over her head, put the train around her chest, put it in her mouth for a minute. They were so afraid, she might eat it, she might do this. Okay, let her eat it. One time, Tom...
She is not going to eat 3 meters of chain.
No, or the strap she could eat, but she really didn't show any behavior that was going to indicate that. But if she started to, okay, she can eat a little piece. We can cut the strap off, and we're never worried about it going wrong because what you can do to prevent that or stop that process. And at one point, Tom, who used to work at the eco-parque Buenos Aires and now works for Foundation Friends Weber and still is working with their coordinations and for transports of some of their animals at the eco-parque. At one point, he said, he started to call my attention to something because I was bent down and looking around the corner at something, and he was about to say, that whole chain is in her mouth, and it was about 1.5 meter piece of chain. And she spit it out like she had been chewing out a hunk of grass for 10 minutes. It's like it's a life-filled chain. It's like, that's disgusting. And then she was like, what were you doing? A big bright smile on her face, But just giving her a chance to experience a little bit different life, and showing what she's capable of tolerating. And she was awesome with it.
Yeah, I saw in the video that she was playing with the gate herself, but obviously on her terms, she's opening and shutting it. So the noise level, maybe is she getting used to that?
Well, that was definitely on her terms. So what they used to do when working with it, and again, it's understandable based on the knowledge, based on the experience, based on the lack of experience that you have with elephants, and not sure what they're capable of. Sometimes not sure what they're capable of tolerating or working through because you just don't have the experience. And so they would, when they would do the sessions, they would get the gate ready. And as soon as she would back out and show that she was a little frustrated or go to do something aggressive to the gate, they would actually immediately call her inside. Would immediately call her inside to the barn and stop the session. or do a full reset and then call her out again once the gate was then secure again. With the strap, she actually had the ability to pull the gate open and close as she wanted to, and she had a great time with that. The gate initially had a closing mechanism that when the gate closes, it latches on its own. And she actually broke that at one point. Not a big deal. I mean, she didn't actually break it into pieces, but it bent it enough that it wasn't catching well. And so and it actually made a lot of noise. So a lot of times she was good with the gate closing until it made that latch noise. And the gate had two sounds. One, when the first latch was touched, which lifted up the latch, and the second, when the latch falling down. And if she pushed the gate, if she stepped back too fast, it would actually pop that latch back open before it had a chance to fully secure. So she would sometimes bang that, and eventually we cut that off so we could close the gate without that sound. But by that point, again, we didn't have a lot of time. Didn't have a lot of time to work through her insecurities. Did not have a lot of time to work through her distrust. But we closed that. But that allowed the gate to actually swing fully inside. So she could push it out or push it in. And she had a great time with that, pushing the gate all the way through and into the crate. And then as she was trying to still walk into the crate, she's like, it's closing on her because of gravity. And she would like use her elbow and use her hip to hold the gate in the inward position. But she didn't really like that. So she'd walk her way back out, open the gate fully, tell the gate to stay open on the outside, and then she'd walk in.
Maybe she can walk in and then just close it with her, I don't know, grab it with her tail and just close it herself.
I was trying to will that to happen, but the physical dynamics don't work. The gate's too big and her body's too wide for the gate to swing through that way. But trust me, we were thinking about all the modifications that we could do to possibly make that work. But the biggest benefit of that is she would do that when we weren't doing anything with her. We weren't trying to do a training session. We weren't trying to do anything with the gate. She would just start playing with it and get frustrated with it. And then she'd be totally chill. She'd walk back in. And one of the biggest benefits for that was for the caregivers to see she can have that moment of, frustration on the gate. What's this gate doing here? Yeah. Don't close on me. Beat the shit out of it. Beat the heck out of it. But then she just walked right back in. It's like, okay, everything's fine. And the caregivers were blown away how much she processed. And early on, before we even did that with the gate, you could see her step back. And when she would step back, when she was a little bit uncomfortable with the sound or something else, when they were trying to, slowly work their way to the back, they would call her in right away. And at one time I said, just wait, let her process for a minute. Give her that time. And then she'll let you know when she's ready to come in. And a second later, you could see her turn and breathe. And then they called her back in. It's like, you can come in now. And that she came right on up to where they were. And you could see the difference, what it was for the caregivers and for her to be able to have that moment.
What are you doing differently, or what have you told the trainers at the eco-park to do differently now to get her more accustomed to the gate closing behind her? The
first thing is let go of their fear. Let go of their fear their fear of it not going well. Okay. It's your fear, your anxiety. You are going so slow. You're not giving her a chance to show her what she's capable of, for her to show you what she's capable of. And so that's the big thing. They may be moving the crate location to a different side, which gives a little bit more flexibility, because there's on the side that they need to go to close the door, to close the gate, there's a big giant historic water trough that can't be damaged or touched or moved. And it's really, really difficult for the caregivers to climb over that trough to get to the gate. She continued just playing with noise, with chains and straps and movement. On that first day that they allowed, it took a few days before they allowed us to do anything like that, because they were very afraid of it. The first day we're like throwing a chain over the top of the crate, and it's banging on the other side, and we're opening windows and banging on the windows, and the more noise we made, the more excited she got. In a positive way, one time she was way on the other side of the enclosure, not that it's that far, 15 meters away.
All of 10 steps.
Yeah, but we're banging with a sledgehammer to open a gate that had been damaged, and not a gate, a window. And she came right on over, all curious and calm and checking it out. And I hadn't finished opening the gate yet. And they were surprised that I kept banging on the gate. It's like, well, just because she's there doesn't mean I have to stop working, banging on the window. So I kept banging on the window. She just stayed there inside the crate while I banged on the window until it slid down. And even when it slid down, which was a bit of a jolt, she just stayed right there. So she did really well. So I said, don't be afraid to make noise. Don't be afraid to walk around. Don't be afraid to explore different options, and just make it dynamic for you and for her.
So talking of permits, I'm looking, and so I'm just a bit sidetracked looking at some questions I've written down. I can't read my writing anymore. I was watching some of the videos of your lives and some of the questions of your supporters. So talking of time, I know you don't like to put your finger on it, but when do you think you will be returning, respectively? Do we still have enough time for our export and import permits? Not that we've got the whole schmozzle again with the Vogons needing to stamp off everything. Is that still okay, that timeline?
We don't know at this point who's even going to go first. Kenya's going to get her crate soon, and her import permit expires first now at this point, because Kenya's is unfortunately true when you deal with any level of bureaucracy. There was a hiccup when we were there about one of the numbers on the import CITES permit not matching the last export permit number, although the number was referenced. They just weren't happy with it. So we actually had to get a new rush import CITES permit from Brazil while they were in Argentina, and a rush, of course, because she was supposed to be leaving like 2 days after that. So they actually have a new import permit for Pupy. So she's good until like August or something. So Kenya's permit is actually going to expire first, but she's never been exposed to her crate. We don't know how she's going to respond to her crate. We do know that both her and Tammy seem to have trust issues with being closed into certain areas. We suspect from things being cleaned and so on and so forth. So we have no idea how she's going to be with that. But Marcos, who we sent to work with her to get her blood samples and form a relationship with her, he is going to go back he's a caregiver from here, originally from the eco-parque. He's going to go back to Kenya probably next week, 10 days, and start working on her crate training, and we'll see how she does.
And so her blood draw was successful?
Yes. Yep, that was all
great.
Good. Yep.
Yes, we all had a little mini party. She was very, very good for it.
Yeah, the non-mini party was on Wednesday, which is the day we arrived in Buenos Aires. I think it was even Thursday morning. We got the notice saying there's a problem with the import permit number. Our conflict with the numbers was like, we're supposed to leave.
But that was the second problem, because then there was the other problem with, it's just inevitable.
Yeah.
There were a couple little issues. So
Puppy's permits are okay. Kenya, you'll be redoing or
no? I think everything's okay right
again?
now. Everything's okay. But if they have to be redone, everybody's aligned. And to show the difference now compared to what it has been for the last 2 years, that new import permit was reemitted in less than 24 hours.
Oh wow!
It was reemitted and on an airplane, on its way to the border within 24 hours.
Because we need the actual hard copy at the border.
Oh, I see, at the border.
So
I see. Okay.
Danny, who works for Seb, he worked with the people at CITES, managed to get the permit, had to put it on a plane from where it was to Sao Paulo, and then Sao Paulo to Foz do Iguaçu, where they were at the border, to get it there within 24 hours.
So they literally, physically, the original, no emails, no fax, no anything. The original literally has to be at the border. Okay, so we've got the permits crossed off. Yeah. Other questions were, is she frightened of the crate? Well, no, you said she isn't frightened of the crate. She's having a great time. She's just frightened of the gate closing.
And it's not even frightened. It's just a distrust of what happens after.
Distrust of what happens when she's closed in. Yep. Another question was because you mentioned chains, would it be possible sort of to force her, like when Ramba, you like, remember during Ramba's location, you put a chain around her foot just to stop her backing back. I mean, you had a plane to catch. It was difficult. She wasn't like dragged in, as Kat said. It was just the chain was just kept tight. So would that have been an option? No.
No, not at that moment, no. At that moment, no. Because she is unlike Ramba, who, I mean, Pupy's not a circus elephant that has been chained over and over and over again for years. Vastly different scenario with those two scenarios. Yeah. She did have change in the past. The other thing is working within the team of the eco-parque and working within their comforts and discomforts with that process. You know, somebody actually said while we're there, if it's this hard here, I can't imagine, because it's difficult to balance all the different personalities and all the individuals and, you know, all the different elements, the political side, the supervisory side, the caregiver side, and they have a huge team there. And that part is really is a little bit of a nightmare for us. You know, it's really difficult. They're great people. They're amazing people, but that balance is really, really delicate sometimes.
And everything's a process. I mean, you can't get you can't just ask for something and get approval. It has to go from like one group to another group, up to this people and then back down. So it's just, there's a lot of stuff going on there.
So we chose, instead of working in that direction, we chose to help them see what they're capable of. And we introduced the idea of introducing a bracelet that can have a chain on it to hold her in place while the gate is closed or while they start playing with the gate, so she doesn't just run back and hit it. It's that running back and hitting it that's creating that very African-like reaction where she's not really processing what's happening. She's just responding. And if she had stopped and processed what it was, I think she'd be better. But she's so reactionary to it that she's not giving herself the space to process. So we explained it in that way and what can happen. And even if you never use it, it's not a bad thing to train. You know, actually, most AZA facilities demand it. You know, because of if you need it for a medical procedure, you never know what's going to be needed. So if you condition it, it can be a relatively easy process. And they kept talking about, you know, oh, won't she be afraid of the chain? It's like, no, the chain does nothing. The chain is not the enemy. It's the human with the chain. And the human with the chain being negative, or the human with the chain being passive and cooperative and respectful and considerate of what that process is, that creates a completely different psychological environment for her, for what it means to have a chain. So we tried to explain that a little bit more. Everyone seemed on board with it. At the same time, they're going to be working on other things. And part of the chain is just to create something new. She's been doing the same sort of sensory stimulation for a long time. And, you know, pick this color, pick this object, you know, which hand has food, which hand do you want, you know, and it's really becomes very sterile in that. So it's like, well, let's introduce something that's completely different and create a little bit different intimacy with she and her caregivers as well.
And the other thing with Ramba is, as you mentioned, she had a plane to catch. I mean, that was still early on, and we did not have $300,000 to lose if she did not get on that plane, because we were not going to be able to. It took years to raise that money at that point in our growth. And like you said, it was passive. It was all done by hand. It wasn't even a come along. It was every time she stepped in, Scott just pulled the chain and locked it on something so she couldn't back out. But, you know, the thing we had with Pupy is we don't have this you have to do it now time frame. You know, it isn't like some of the other elephants. I mean, we've never used a chain on anybody else, but, you know, with some of the other elephants, like with Bambi, she wasn't really 100% ready. But the zoo started talking about, she's not going to travel. We need to go back to the judge and see if we can get him to decide that she should stay after all because of blah, blah, blah. And you have these situations, ladies' situations, where you don't necessarily have like a specific day, but you do have a facility that really isn't behind their elephant moving, and them not going in a certain time frame can cause problems to the point where you do lose custody of an elephant over something like that. And we don't have that with the zoo. You know, the eco-parque, they're the ones who want to send her to us, you know, and we're all good with receiving her. So we have this nice relationship that allows Pupy to take whatever time she needs to get comfortable with it, us to be able to work with the caregivers and the trainers to expand their understanding that is not only reflected in how they deal with her, but then gets to be reflected in how they care for other animals at the zoo. You know, and this can all be a very nice, peaceful, passive thing. Because the reality is, once that gate is closed behind her, and then they open it, and then they close it, and then they open it, she'll probably be so easy with it all. It is that fear of, why are you doing it? What's going on? And once she sees it's not really anything.
Yeah. And if it's nothing, then why are you being so secretive about it?
Sure.
You know, why are you creating this mystery about what it is to close the gate?
Why are you sneaking around? Why does everybody get so anxious? You know, it is when people are trying to do it for a relocation, there is that anxiety. Oh no, it has to work this time. And, you know, we talk about how sensitive they are and how much they pick up on emotions. And, you know, if when they do everything else, everybody's all peaceful and relaxed, and then it's time to close the gate, And
we lost internet.
Yep.
I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
But this is still recording.
Okay.
So if it's time to close the gate and everybody's all sorts of anxious, that changes everything.
It's not easy, but we do have time. But bottom line, we have time. We have a community who's very, very supportive of that process. We have Pupy who's exceptional. And now we just have to see how things go next, and time will tell.
Yeah, and again, our support base, they know us. They hopefully trust us and realize that, we don't want to sedate her. We don't want to force her in. Since we have the time, we can give her that time, and it's going to benefit everybody. So we'll take a step back, give her that space, and she'll get here.
Can't wait for it, though.
I think our poor caregivers are going to be in shock at the difference between Africans and Asians, but it's
She's
good.
amazing.
It'll get them moving faster.
Oh my God, she's so much fun. She's such she's brilliant. She's really wonderful. So, and yes, I am once again smitten.
Shocking.
And that wraps up our podcast for this week. Thank you all for joining us. I'm Nadia, your host. Please remember to follow us on the buttons below. ... Thanks, Nadia.
Bye.
Well, that was a fun end to this week's podcast. I was staring at a frozen screen, busily texting Scott and Kat saying we need to reconnect because we've been cut off. But they are the professionals. They finished off the podcast without me. And I hope that all your questions regarding Pupy's imminent relocation to the sanctuary, despite this small setback, have been answered. And always feel free to reach out to GSE and their entire team for any questions you may have. Subscribe to the podcast, hit the notification bell so that you never miss an episode. And until we meet up for our next episode, take care.